And welcome back to another edition of Inside Career Technical Education. We are your hosts, Ann Baldwin, President and CEO of Baldwin Media Marketing, and
Jim Bologa, President and CEO of Porter and Chester Institute.
You want to arm wrestle? Who's a better president and CEO, do you think?
You are, Ann.
No, I'm not. You are. You got a lot more on your plate than I do. I don't know how you do it, Jim, but you're doing a great job at Porter and Chester Institute. And I'm so excited that I was at your Hamden campus a couple of weeks ago, and I was in the HVAC area looking at the labs. And I was talking to one of the instructors there, and he says, "Man, you got to talk to this graduate of ours, this Anthony Manzi, man. He's amazing. He was a great student in the HVAC program, which stands for, it's actually HVAC/R.
Correct.
So why don't you define that for us, Jim?
Yeah, so it's heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration.
That's right. It's changed since the good old days. So Anthony Manzi is nice enough because he, graduated not that long ago. And I said, "Can you join us on our podcast?" He said, "Yeah, sure. I'll do it during my lunch break." How nice is that?
It's really nice.
So thanks, Anthony, for taking your lunch break to be with us. How's it going out there?
Oh, it's going great. A little cold, doing some gas piping, but all in all, it's not too bad.
Well, I said, to Jim earlier, I said, this guy's been working his ass off, and then you replied,
freezing my ass off, yeah.
I love it. This is a podcast, so we don't have to be politically correct, and we can say those words. So that's what makes it fun. So, our listeners are really interested, Anthony, and a lot of essential workers are so needed, not only here in our state of Connecticut, but, across the United States of America. So tell us a little bit about, let's just start from the beginning. What made you decide to enroll at Porter and Chester at their Hamden campus in HVAC?
So I actually was working in the restaurant business, trying to find my career, but I was trying to go through the process of being in law enforcement, and that just didn't work out. In the meantime, I went and took that tour of the campus all in the same time.
There you go. And so what specifically, Anthony, impressed you about our industry modeled labs in the HVAC area?
I would just say how everything was put together very well. It's just the structural integrity of the classrooms, and just it's a very classroom setting, but also a shop. So I just all that put together kind of just really got me very interested.
Well, and Jim, so many of these trades that Porter and Chester Institute offers are hands-on. So even during COVID, you've really had to, zig and zag and figure things out, because you can't learn a lot of these trades without getting your hands on the equipment. And this is the perfect example of that.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the things that, in this COVID, now we're in this COVID world, we're not necessarily bringing students back on campus, for for the tour and the interview process, and we're doing all that virtually. But students are still coming on campus to do their hands-on education and training in our industry modeled labs. And I'm always just curious, listening to students about their perception of our labs, because again, what we've tried to do is work with local employers who are on our program advisory committees in designing our industry modeled labs, so that when students come to our school, they get into the lecture piece. Obviously, that's all online right now, and then they come onto the campus and then get to practically apply what they're learning, in a industry modeled setting. So my hope is that students are getting really a broad array of experience, so that when they do actually go out, in their first job, they actually have quite a bit of knowledge, that works out well for them and their employer.
Well, let's talk about that, Anthony, because you're actually, on the job today. As we mentioned, you're on your lunch break, 28 years old, and you're already an apprentice with Nero Air Conditioning and Heating, which is based out of North Haven. So to Jim's point, talk about how critical that hands-on training was, and your transition from your recent graduate of Porter and Chester right into an apprentice program.
So a few things with that. Without the hands-on training, there would be no basis, no foundation for getting more or less, lack of a better term, a foothold in the industry here. There's a lot of opportunity, and having that hands-on training really gave me the foundation that I needed to kind of get started with pipe threading, with brazing, soldering, everything really. So yeah, it really helped a lot.
Yeah. Hey, Anthony, maybe you could talk, what sort of inspired you about HVAC? Because, it's interesting to me, how, a lot of these, trades and vocations or professions now have become essential. And, HVAC, is now like at the forefront with COVID, in terms of it being a respiratory virus. And,
Yeah.
it's really critical that, we have, good clean air, whether it's hot air or cold air coming into, the places we live and work and worship. And it's interesting to me how, this sort of profession has really become, really critical to a lot of people's existence, and especially now as we head into winter, and how important it is to, have, the proper filtration of air and the proper circulation of air. So maybe just talk a little bit about, what sort of inspired you there.
You know what? It's very hard to put one example for us. There's a lot of things that inspired me about this field. It's more or less hands-on, being able to be in a different place, not knowing what I'm going to be doing the next day if I'm not on a prolonged job. Those types of things that really inspired me to be like, okay, well, I really didn't understand what HVAC meant to begin with, and now I know all about it. Well, not all about it. I have a good understanding, and I'm progressing every day, but that's really kind of the unknown, the not knowing what I'm going to get into from day to day. That's kind of really the main thing that inspired me.
It's a variety job, right? And
Yes,
I totally understand where you're coming from, Anthony, because I worked in the news business for years, and that was one of the attractions for me. I mean, it wasn't my personality to sit in a cubicle all day or in front of a computer screen. I like the
Or talking pieces.
yes. So I just like the mystery of what's going to happen not only tomorrow, but what's going to happen 5 minutes from now. So Anthony, Richard Vilmnick, who's one of the instructors over at the Hamden campus in HVAC, spoke very highly of you, and he loves his job. He loves the students. He loves what he does. Talk a little bit as a student. How important was it to have an instructor with such knowledge and passion?
Well, I mean, words can't really describe how, I don't know, really, it was just, I didn't have a lot of people believing in me, and he was that one person that just believed in everything that I did and sat and took the time with me and everybody else to show us to understand from the basics to the complex. It's very outstanding, the knowledge and years he has in this field. The things that this gentleman knows, it's just, you would never have guessed that he knows all that. But he taught us a lot, and he respects everybody, and everybody respects him. It was just all around a good scenario.
Yeah, Anthony, that's great to hear. I mean, as the president and CEO of the school, it's great to hear that our instructors are sort of making that kind of impact on our students, and it's interesting to me because, again, I think that I think all of us have that one instructor, as we go through, our various different kinds of learning experiences that makes a difference. And, I know I had one of those too when I was, going through school, and it's really important that, you find that person who's passionate about their career. And that's what I think, separates us, in many cases, is that we do have, industry veterans who come back and want to give back to their trade, and they share all the knowledge. And again, I mean, when students are, learning, a lot of us are sponges and trying to absorb everything. And it's interesting to me how, a person like that has so much knowledge to impart. And I would encourage you to, stay in close contact, with us as a school and with your instructor. I mean, because it's a small world and you never know. And but it's great to hear that he made such a great impression upon you.
Absolutely. Anthony, what are you doing these days as an apprentice? So how long does your apprenticeship last? Because you don't go, because you've got different
so-
licenses that you have to
Yeah.
attain, right?
So my first license, to my understanding, from what I hear from one of the lead guys that I'm working with, is going to be my D license, D12 or something like that. I can't recall correctly, but I know I have to put in 4,000 hours for it. So my apprenticeship is pretty much ongoing until I get that license, until I get the top license, which is your S1, which I'm quite a ways away from, but that's my ultimate goal. But yeah, as far as that goes, we're just doing everything under the sun as far as HVAC goes. We're doing everything from residential to commercial. It's very interesting to see what's actually out in the field. There's a lot of new tech coming out, and it's just always evolving, more or less. But doing a lot of the small stuff too, like threading and cutting pipe, and doing duct work and installing furnaces, boilers, etc. So everything that is HVAC, that's what I've been doing.
It's not even a few months after graduation. You're employed, working. You're on an apprenticeship. What sort of surprised you about the profession 2 months out?
How much I dislike insulation.
There you go.
Just look at it as cotton candy.
Oh, yeah. But, no, I think the surprise came to me as far as how well I am able to work with everybody. Not as far as my character, as far as, there's a lot of good amount of stigma out there, where, tradesmen aren't really the friendliest of guys, but, it's not, that's actually not accurate at all. And I found that to be where, everybody I've worked with, everybody I just talked to at my company, Nero, is just very, very friendly, outgoing, and it's just very easy to work with everybody. And they show you, okay, this is how you do it. If you don't understand it, you ask them, and they correct it. But I would say that would be the most my fears of not fitting in, where surprisingly you fit in very well.
That's great to hear. And so, Anthony, how long did it take you to get a job with Nero Air Conditioning and Heating after you graduated?
I would say a good month and a half. I just to play it safe, 2 months.
Okay, great. That's awesome to hear.
What's your best advice for somebody who might be listening to this podcast and thinking about going into the trades?
I would say get into trades. Really, it is very rewarding. It opens up a lot of doors that you never thought was even possible. It's just the amount of stuff that you will be capable of in time is mountains compared to what you think is out there now. So I would strongly recommend getting into any trade, not just HVAC. They need plumbers, electricians, everybody under the sun, and HVAC too covers a lot of that. But I would go with HVAC, and that would be my advice.
All right. Well, Anthony Manzi, thank you so much for being here. And as I always like to say, continued success to you, young man. Very inspiring. And we want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Inside Career Technical Education.